Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and I left my document here in the wrong place. So, pardon me for one moment as we gear up for a poetry discussion, which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, obviously, being the poetry discussion playlist, but number two, a poem by poem read along of Sylvia Plath, The Yellow Book. This is the 10th video in the Sylvia Plath read along, but also around the 250th, 260th, I've lost track, poem in the poetry discussion playlist here. So the poem in question today is a bit of a weird one for me. It's called Ode for Ted, and it reads as such. From under the crunch of my man's boot, green oat sprouts jut. He names a lapwing, starts rabbits in a rout, legging it most nimble to sprigged hedge of bramble, stalks red fox, shrewd stoat, loam humps, he says, moles shunt up from delved worm haunt, blue fur moles have hefting chalk hold flint, he with rocks splits open, knobbed quartz, flayed colors ripen, rich brown, sudden in sunlight. For his least look, scant acres yield. Each finger furrowed field heaves forth stalk, leaf, fruit nubbed emerald, bright grain sprung so rarely he hauls to his will early. At his hands staunch hest birds build. Ringdoves roost well within his wood, sure songs to suit which mood he saunters in. How but most glad could this Adam's woman, when all earth his words do summon, leaps to laud such man's blood. I'm beginning to get a little bit of an ear, I think, for Sylvia Plath. And I'm beginning to I don't know how Sylvia Plath wrote her poetry, but it's beginning to strike me that maybe this is how she wrote her poetry. So there was a guy I knew who was a local artist, musician, and he really worked with he was more of a composer, and he worked with a lot of rappers. And one of my friends thought he could rap. And he started working with this guy, and he said, how do rappers rhyme so many words while telling a story? And he said, well, what you do is you start with your story. As I went to the store to get my groceries. Why can't I type? You start with this, and then you break it down to say, uh, as I rolled to, and then you now rolled stow is rhyming. Then that's how you do it. You break it down in this fashion. So what it's looking to me like Sylvia Plath is doing is okay, went. Now I'm going to break went down into a component, traveled. So instead of as I went, as I precariously traveled, etc., to the store. It's not a store. It is a grocery. It is to bright set aisles under um I don't know whatever type of ceiling they have there. And then okay, well I've got this boom as I precariously traveled to the bright set aisles under to get my grocery. Like this is how it's striking me that Sylvia Plath's poetry is maybe not written, but maybe that is how it was written, because this poem feels very much like that, as if it were just a random series of words at times that once you break it down into components, you can better read. So that is maybe neither here nor there, but I am a struggling Sylvia Plath reader, so I wanted to get that out there and wonder if anyone else has any hints on how to read these poems. But this poem itself feels almost voyeuristic to have, because we know Sylvia Plath, we know her life, we know how she died, we know Ted, we know how this relationship turned out. So to have this something of a love poem um, feels almost voyeuristic, feels almost wrong to be reading. So for me, there is a weird level on this poem with that you can see the people behind it. You know who they are. You know how things turned out. But for this poem in particular, breaking it down, if Emily Dickinson is known for slant rhymes, things that almost rhyme but don't quite, and still, in that way, they have a haunting appeal to the ear. We kind of sense them. We almost know them. We can almost anticipate the word, but we can't quite. And once we've heard it, it sounds like it fits into place. If Emily Dickinson is known for those slant rhymes, Sylvia Plath must be known for pairing consonants and vowels and all of these types of things, because we get, so for example, loam, humps, moles, shunt, worm, haunt, a slight variation of these syllables here. The syllables that she pairs oftentimes, and we get it very sort of quietly. Where is it here? We get a very quiet one a little bit later in the poem. Sudden in sunlight, sudden in sunlight. The way these syllables sort of work off the tongue, they help us in our reading when the syntax does not. But sometimes if you've been here with me through 10 poems, you notice I stutter in this an awful lot. I think these things are much easier to get out on a second and third pass out loud, even mentally. Even just reading the things silently to myself, I get caught up. I really do. And then, as I learn a little of the poem, as I can break the poem down better, the syntax makes more sense. I understand where the syllables are happening. I know which words are coming next. It becomes much easier. And I wonder if this is part of the appeal of Sylvia Plath. I don't think Sylvia Plath has a particularly broad appeal. I think that Sylvia Plath has an appeal predominantly to angsty teens, which I think we can understand, but also for academics. And I think part of this is that Sylvia Plath's poetry is very difficult at first. Sylvia Plath's poetry is very difficult up front. Sylvia Plath's poetry yields you almost nothing immediately. And I wonder if that is part of the appeal, that it feels a lot like work getting through it. I wonder if that is some of the appeal for the academic types. I wonder if that is part of the appeal that has kept Sylvia Plath and her poetry alive. So I want to look at some other. So this is, sort of a love poem, right? This is like what is that song? My Man. Who does that song? Doesn't matter. This is sort of one of those type of poems, but I want to look at some other love poems just to sort of have a template for what we're looking at here. This is A Red, Red Rose by Robert Burns. Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like the melody that's sweetly played in tune. So fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till the seas gang dry. Till the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun. I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands o'er life shall run. And fare thee weel, my only love, and fare thee weel awhile. And I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 mile. I will walk 10,000 miles. Um, this poem is right here very much. This poem is almost exclusively, that's an awful color. Why does this? Oh, my love is like a red, red rose. We're talking about my love. My love as in you, baby, but also my love as in the love that is mine. Then we have from Emily Dickinson, If You Were Coming in the Fall. If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by with half a smile and half a spurn as housewives do a fly. If I could see you in a year, I'd wind the months in balls and put them each in separate drawers for fear the numbers fuse. If only centuries delayed, I'd count them on my hand, subtracting till my fingers dropped into Van Diemen's land. If certain, when this life was out, that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind and take eternity. But now, uncertain of the length of this that is between, it goads me like the goblin bee that will not state its sting. These, If You Were Coming in the Fall, and A Red, Red Rose by Robert Burns, are very, very different poems. But if the two of them had a baby, maybe it would be Ode for Ted. We have in If You Were Coming in the Fall these fantastical things happening. If you were coming in the fall, uh, I'd what is it now? Why can't I remember this? I'd brush the summer by with half a smile and half a spurn as housewives do a fly. All these fantastical things. In My Love is a Red, Red Rose, it's all praise of the love. Here we have some strange middle ground. So we do have the naturalistic stuff that is also in both of them, but to me, Emily Dickinson's poetry always has a whole lot of naturalistic stuff going on. Here we have Sylvia Plath saying, my man is a force of nature, and nature will bend to him. In My Love is a Red, Red Rose, we have my love is a thing of nature. And then in If You Were Coming in the Fall, my love is strong enough to bend nature, right? So here we have some strange, nearly fusing of those two ideas into Ode for Ted. That is all I have for this poetry discussion, the 10th in a 274-part series. If you enjoy what I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out on the channel, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, Literature's the only thing I do on this channel. So consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around. There's poetry every Monday.